Do you ever feel like you're playing a role in a grand, unseen story? Sometimes you are the brave hero, charging into challenges. Other times, the lonely orphan, just trying to belong. What if these aren't just moods, but ancient, powerful patterns of energy that live within all of us? Carl Jung called them archetypes, the secret blueprints of the human soul. Here is a truth that is both humbling and liberating. You think your personality is unique to you. It is not. The core stories, motivations, and fears that drive you are part of an ancient, universal library of human experience. You are not the first person to walk the path of the warrior, the lover, or the magician. Jung's most mind-bending idea was that we are all born with a set of psychic software called archetypes. Understanding your primary programs isn't about boxing yourself in. It's about finally getting the user's manual to your own life. This is a critical part of shadow work because the archetype that shines the brightest in you also determines what you must cast into the darkest shadows. This video is your introduction to the cast of characters living within you. We will not just name them. We will explore their deepest desires, their greatest fears, and their hidden shadow. We will begin the work of discovering the mythic story your soul is trying to live. Are you ready to discover which character has been taking the lead in your life story? To understand archetypes is to see the invisible architecture of your own soul. They are not personality types, like a Myers-Briggs result you can put on a resume. They are living, dynamic patterns of energy, psychic instincts, the source code of the human experience, inherited by all of us. Carl Jung called this shared reservoir of primal stories the collective unconscious. Think of it like this. Archetypes are the ancient, empty riverbeds of the psyche. Your personal life, your unique experiences, traumas, and joys is the water that flows through these riverbeds. The water gives the riverbed its unique shape, its personal story. But the riverbed itself, the deep, universal pattern of the hero's journey or the orphan's search for belonging, is as old as humanity itself. This is why myths and fairy tales from cultures that never met share such profoundly similar themes. They are all drawing water from the same deep collective well. The problem is not that we have these patterns. They are our inheritance, our power. The problem begins when we become unconsciously identified with just one of them, when one riverbed floods and drowns out all the other landscapes of our soul. We become possessed by an archetype. We are no longer a person playing a role. We are the role. And our life becomes a frantic effort to achieve a perfect score for that one single character. Let me tell you about Richard, a 54-year-old surgeon I worked with. If you met him, you would see the archetype before you saw the man. He was possessed by the hero, the warrior. His life was a series of battles to be won. Difficult surgeries were dragons to be slain. Hospital politics were enemy lines to be outmaneuvered. He worked 18-hour days. He slept at the hospital. He was brilliant. He saved lives. His persona, the godlike surgeon, was flawless. His life was a string of achievements on the hero's scorecard. But he came to me because his life was falling apart. His wife had left him. His children, now adults, barely spoke to him. He called them on their birthdays, and they were polite strangers. He had no friends, only colleagues and competitors. He confessed to me, in a rare moment of vulnerability that felt like a physical tearing, "I've won every battle, but I've lost the entire war. I feel completely, utterly alone." Richard was the perfect hero, but the cost of that perfection was the exile of every other part of his humanity. To be the perfect hero, he he had to cast his own vulnerability into the shadow. His need for rest, his capacity for simple, unproductive joy, his ability to just be a husband, a father, a friend. These were all seen as weaknesses by the hero archetype that ran his life. His relentless drive to prove his worth through courageous action was fueled by the hero's greatest fear, the fear of weakness. The emptiness he felt was the sound of his entire exiled soul crying out from the darkness. This is the collapse of the achievement-based model of identity. When you try to get a perfect score in one archetype, you inevitably fail at the larger game of being a whole human being. Your life becomes one-dimensional, brittle, and you become exhausted from the sheer effort of performing. Richard's journey of healing, a core part of his shadow work, was not about becoming a better hero. It was about having the courage to take off the armor, to acknowledge the lonely, tired man underneath, to begin the work of rescuing the exiled parts of himself. He had to learn that true courage is not just about slaying dragons. It is also about having the vulnerability to say, I am tired, I am lonely, I need help. This is the power of knowing your archetype. It gives you a name for the script you have been unconsciously following. It gives you a map of both your greatest strengths and your most predictable fatal flaws. It gives you the language of self-compassion. Richard was not a bad person. He was a man possessed by a powerful, one-sided energy. And understanding that was the first step towards freedom. It was the first step towards becoming the conscious author of his own story, instead of just an actor in an ancient play. So how do we begin to identify these powerful characters on our own inner stage? How do we see their light without being blinded by it, and their shadow without being ashamed of it?
An archetype is not who you are. It is a current of energy that flows through you, like the wind through the trees. Sometimes it is a gentle breeze. Other times, a hurricane. The mistake is not in feeling the wind. The mistake is believing you are the hurricane. The journey to wholeness, a core tenet of Carl Jung's work, is not about choosing a better archetype. It is about moving from being possessed by one to becoming the wise host to many. It is about building a psyche that is not a narrow hut built to withstand only one type of weather, but a grand cathedral with windows open to every wind that blows. So let us open the windows. Let us meet 4 of the most foundational characters on your inner stage. As we explore them, I invite you to listen not with your head, but with your heart. Which energy feels familiar? Which story echoes in your own life? First, we meet the innocent, or in its shadow form, the orphan. The core desire of the innocent is simple, pure, and profound. To be safe, to belong, to return to a state of paradise. Its greatest fear is abandonment, to be cast out, punished, left alone. In its light, the innocent is the source of our optimism, our trust, and our capacity for simple joy. But in the dark, when life inevitably brings pain and disillusionment, the innocent can fall into its shadow, the orphan. The orphan lives in a state of denial. It refuses to see the harsh realities of the world. It feels like a perpetual victim, always waiting for a rescuer, always feeling that life has been unfair to them. Its mantra is, "Why is this happening to me?" The task of the innocent, orphan, is to move from naive trust to embodied resilience, to learn that safety is not something that is given to you from the outside, but something you can build on the inside. Next, we have the hero, or the warrior. We have met Richard. The core desire of the hero is to prove one's worth through courageous, competent action, to overcome adversity and triumph over darkness. Its greatest fear is weakness, vulnerability, to be seen as a coward or a failure. In its light, the hero is the source of our courage, our discipline, and our drive to make the world a better place. It is the energy that builds, that protects, that strives. But its shadow is immense. The hero needs an enemy, and if there is no external dragon to slay, it will create one, in a colleague, a spouse, or even in itself. The shadow hero is arrogant. It burns out. It cannot stop fighting, because without the fight, it does not know who it is. The task of the hero is to learn that true strength includes the courage to be vulnerable, to learn to fight not for the sake of the fight, but for what truly matters, for love, for connection, for peace. Then we have the caregiver, the nurturer. This is the energy that pulses so strongly in so many of us, especially those in the helping professions. Think of Chloe, our nurse, always putting others first. The core desire of the caregiver is to protect and care for others, to alleviate suffering. Its greatest fear is selfishness, to be seen as uncaring or ungrateful. In its light, the caregiver is the source of our compassion, our generosity, our empathy. It is the bedrock of human community. But its shadow is a quiet, devastating poison. The shadow caregiver becomes a martyr. They overgive, not from a place of genuine love, but from a desperate need to be needed. This leads to resentment, exhaustion, and a subtle form of manipulation. After all I've done for you, your greatest gift, when unconscious, becomes your most effective poison, for yourself and for others. The task of the caregiver is the most difficult of all. It is to learn to turn its profound gift of nurturance inward, to learn that caring for oneself is not an act of selfishness, but the essential act that makes all other care possible. And finally, we meet the seeker, or the explorer. This is the energy of restlessness, the voice that whispers, "Is this all there is?" The core desire of the seeker is to find out who you are by exploring the world, to find your own unique truth. Its greatest fear is conformity, entrapment, inner emptiness. In its light, the seeker is the source of our ambition, our curiosity, and our individuality. It is the energy that pushes humanity forward into new territory. But its shadow is aimless wandering. The shadow seeker cannot commit to a relationship, to a career, to a place. They are always searching for the next better thing, convinced that fulfillment is just over the next hill. They live a life of endless beginnings, and they mistake the thrill of the search for the peace of arrival. The task of the seeker is to realize that the ultimate journey is not outward, but inward, to discover that the truth they have been searching for all over the world has been waiting for them in the stillness of their own heart. I invite you to a moment of active pause. For just a moment, gently close your eyes. The innocent, the hero, the caregiver, the seeker. Which of these energies feels most familiar in your life right now? There is no right answer, no judgment. Simply notice. If you feel comfortable, share that name in the comments below. The simple act of naming is an act of power. These are just 4 characters in a vast, rich inner cast. And as you begin to recognize them, you move from being a puppet in their play to becoming the audience. And from the audience, you can learn to become the director. But first, you must be certain of the role you have been playing. How do you find your patterns? How do you read the script?
To know your archetype is not a parlor game. It is an act of profound self-reclamation. It is the beginning of the end of the war against yourself. Because when you understand your archetype script, you understand that your flaws are often the predictable shadow side of your greatest strengths. You stop judging yourself so harshly. The caregiver's resentment is the shadow of their immense compassion. The hero's arrogance is the shadow of their profound courage. This understanding is the beginning of compassion, and compassion is the beginning of integration. So how do we begin this archaeological dig? How do we find the patterns, the scripts, the roles we play? The clues are not hidden in a secret vault. They are scattered in plain sight throughout the story of your own life. The first tool is what I call the favorite story method. The stories that captivate us are often mirrors. Think back, not just to last week, but to your entire life. What myths, what fairy tales, what movie characters have always resonated with you on a soul-deep level? The character you wanted to be, the one whose struggles felt like your own. For Chloe, the nurse, it was always the story of the little mermaid, the one who gives up her own voice for the sake of love, a story of profound sacrifice that ends in sorrow. When she saw this pattern, she realized she had been living that myth her entire life, giving up her own needs, her own no, her own voice, hoping it would earn her love, but finding it only brought her exhaustion. Your favorite story is often your secret autobiography. The second tool is the Crossroads Journal. Look back at the major turning points in your life, the choice of a career, the beginning or end of a significant relationship, a major move, and ask yourself a simple question. What character or energy was guiding my choice? Was it the risk-taking explorer seeking freedom and a new horizon? Was it the duty-bound caregiver making the choice that would help the most people, even at a cost to yourself? Was it the battle-ready hero choosing the path that offered the greatest challenge, the biggest dragon to slay? Or was it the lonely orphan choosing the path that seemed to offer the most security and belonging, even if it wasn't your true passion? Your choices reveal your motivations, and your motivations reveal your archetype. And the final clue is often the most powerful. It is the shadow reaction clue. Carl Jung taught us that what we most vehemently reject in others is often a disowned part of ourselves. This can also apply to archetypes. The archetype whose shadow side irritates you the most in other people might be the one that is most active and most unconscious in you. If you find yourself constantly annoyed by victims who don't take responsibility, you may have a powerful, unacknowledged orphan archetype at play. If you are infuriated by arrogant show-offs, you may be wrestling with the shadow of your own hero. Your strongest judgments are often signposts pointing directly to your own shadow work. This is not about putting yourself in a box. Quite the opposite. It is about realizing that you are far larger than the one character you have been playing. The ultimate goal, the great work of the second half of life that Jung called individuation, is not to perfect one role. It is to discover and integrate the rich inner cast of characters that make up your whole self. A healthy, integrated person is not just one archetype. They have conscious access to many. They can call upon the hero's courage when a battle must be fought.
They can access the caregiver's compassion when a loved one is in pain. They can embody the seeker's curiosity when a new path must be forged. And they can honor the innocent's need for rest and simple joy. They move from being an unconscious actor in the play to becoming the wise director of the entire production. This is the beginning of true freedom. The freedom to choose your response instead of being driven by an ancient, unconscious script. You are not just the hero. You are not just the caregiver. You are the one who contains them all. The vast, quiet, conscious space in which all these powerful energies can dance. But to become the director, you must first meet the actors, and not just the ones performing in the spotlight. You must have the courage to meet the ones you have locked away, the ones who speak to you in dreams, the ones who show up as your deepest fears and your most baffling behaviors. What if you could have a direct conversation with them? What if you could ask your inner hero what he is so afraid of, or ask your inner orphan what she truly needs to feel safe? This is not fantasy. It is one of Jung's most powerful and mysterious techniques for wholeness. And it is the next step on our journey.
So you have met the character. Perhaps you recognized yourself in the hero's relentless drive or the caregiver's quiet resentment. The act of naming this energy is a profound moment of clarity. But the goal of this work is not to become a better actor. It is to step off the stage and become the director. You are not your archetype. You are the one who contains the archetype, the great, silent, conscious space in which all these ancient dramas play out. This is the ultimate promise of the inner work laid out by Carl Jung, the journey of individuation. It is the journey from being a puppet in an ancient play to becoming the conscious author of your own unique myth. A whole person is not a perfect hero. A whole person is not a flawless caregiver. A whole person has built a round table in their own soul, and all the characters have a seat. They can call upon the hero's courage when a stand must be made. They can access the caregiver's compassion when a heart is breaking. They can embody the seeker's curiosity when the old map no longer works. And they can honor the innocent's need for rest, for play, for simple, uncomplicated joy. They're no longer at war with their own inner cast. They have created a peaceful inner household. This is the freedom this work offers you. Not the freedom from your patterns, but the freedom within your patterns. The freedom that comes from awareness. When you're aware of the hero's script running within you, you can consciously choose not to seek another battle. When you feel the martyrdom of the caregiver rising, you can consciously choose to say no. You are no longer reacting. You are choosing. And in that choice lies all your power. This is the heart of what it means to reclaim your inner world. So as we close this exploration, I invite you to one small act of recognition. Based on our brief tour, which of the four archetypes, the innocent, the hero, the caregiver, or the seeker, resonates most strongly with you right now in your life? Not forever, just now. There's no judgment, simply an act of naming. Share that name in the comments below. Simply naming this powerful energy is the first step to consciously working with it. For this is where the true journey begins. It is not enough to simply know the names of the actors on your inner stage. The next step in this profound work, the work of shadow work, is to learn how to speak to them, to have a direct, conscious conversation with the parts of yourself you have only ever observed from a distance. What if you could ask your inner hero what he is so truly afraid of? What if you could ask your inner orphan what she needs to finally feel safe? This is not a fantasy. It is one of Jung's most powerful, transformative, and mysterious techniques for wholeness. A way to open the phone line directly to your own soul. And in our next journey together, we will learn the art of active imagination.